Hey, Big Brother fans, I've got a live feeds update for you with some insane chatter in the house. We've got Kelley saying, honestly, something truly awful about Keanu, and Vince making a twisted love declaration, and of course, Rachel's name in Kelley and Lauren's mouths yet again reminds me of when Rachel was screaming at Keanu, "You're obsessed with me," because they are. Nobody's out in the streets talking about Zay. Oh my gosh, though Zach, by the way, is so active on Big Brother's social media trying to create some post BB27 relevancy. I just can't with him. All right, it's Belinda, and I'm going to dive person by person into the latest insanity. Please click subscribe if you're not following us. And don't forget, we've been robbed. There is no Sunday Big Brother episode because of the Emmys. So we are pressed to wait till Tuesday while all these people get their trophies. All right, let's start with Miss Ava Pearl, who has slid back in my MIP, most irritating player ranking, to number 2 because Kelley made big moves over the last 24 hours and regained her number 1 MIP status. First, let's talk about Ava, though. It was giving bizarre contradictions hearing Ava being ride or die about keeping Lauren off the block for renom. This is the same Lauren who nominated and sent out Ava's self-proclaimed best friend Will on Lauren's HOH. So for a good chunk of Friday post-veto comp and into Saturday, Ava was on fire about Lauren being a possible renom. Ava even considered offering Vinny her final 2 vote to stop it. Yet, when Morgan slid up to Ava last night and mentioned the possibility she might use the veto on her, guess what? Suddenly, Goodwill Greta was not concerned with Lauren as a renom anymore. Ava definitely would love that veto used on her with no regard for who goes on the block in her place. So it looks like she was less worried about Lauren being on the block, and Ava was more worried that she wouldn't have the votes to stay over Lauren, which is a valid concern. Also, Ashley slid up on Ava to propose a final 2 deal. The latest name they suggested was C'est la vie. I think they were mispronouncing it intentionally, c'est la vie properly, which if you know the phrase means that's life. Well, if Ava falls for Ashley's fake ASS pitch, I guess that's her Big Brother life because it's a ruse. I've been saying this for a while. Ashley is not actually dumb. Her real final 2 that she wants kind of makes her the smartest person in the house, and it's not Ava. I will tell you in a second who it is, but Ashley can't tell that person that she wants her for final 2 because this person cannot be trusted. So it's an interesting scheme. So Saturday, Ashley dipped a toe into the hot tub, the communal water she has been avoiding for 68 days. She likes her solo showers, not viral stew pots of humanity. But she got in there with Ava and started talking about all of Morgan's wonderful accomplishments in the game. And Ava agreed Morgan's a huge threat and thinks she's helping Vince too much playing his game. So Ashley's planting seeds with Ava. As to Ashley's real final 2 that she wants to sit in those chairs finale night next to crazy Kelley because Ashley looked at who she can beat, who she can maybe beat, and she considered Vince and Morgan and, maybe Ava, but Kelley, I mean, come on. Most house guests cannot stand her, and that includes the people going to jury, and they would probably vote for anyone but her. The thing is, Ashley actually can't tell Kelley she wants a final 2 with her because she would just tell everybody around the house. But it looks like Ashley is low-key aiming to make it happen. Now, speaking of the bug girl who bugs everybody, I got to talk about her remarks about Keanu that have a lot of people crying foul, and frankly, I'm there. Kelley was in the kitchen talking to Lauren. Vince was in there too. He was tidying up the counter. Kelley says about Keanu, "I hate when he has his locks down. He scares me like a different person." And Lauren makes a candy bar commercial joke. "You're not you when you have your locks down." And Kelley said, "Have a Snickers or whatever." That whole dialogue, it just gave me the ick. Okay, Keanu's a huge guy, but I've not seen him be physically threatening or intimidating to anybody. He doesn't do that. Even when he gets upset, he's not berserk. He's not unhinged compared to Riley, who I think was wildly aggressive. That's like saying Lauren scares me when she doesn't have her hair in 2 preschool ponytails, or, oh, Morgan with that scarf off her head is terrifying. You know, I see dreadlocks up, down, however, and I think mellow, like Bob Marley. I get no negative connotations. Kelley is back to the top of my MIP list for talking about Keanu that way. I see a gentle giant when I look at him. It appeals to the macrophiliac side of me. As for Lauren's comment about the "you're not you when your locks are down," yes, I get the Snickers ad reference. That is no defense to this conversation, because what Lauren should have said to Kelley is, why would dreadlocks scare you? So while we're talking about awful Kelley and human sloth Lauren, there's this. Kelley, Lauren, and Vince were sitting in the kitchen talking about finale night under the amusing assumption that all 3 of them will be there. Lauren doesn't have a dress and is wondering if she can have one sent in time. Kelley was saying they should have kept Rachel's stuff. And Vince said, I don't think she would have allowed that. Kelley said, imagine I pull up to finale wearing one of her dresses. And Vince said, she'd lose it. And Kelley said, and then she has to pick between one of the 3 of us, and we're each wearing one of her dresses. Now, the only thing that amuses me is the idea of Vince in one of Rachel's dresses. So Lauren and Kelley were also saying later they feel sorry for Vince because Morgan is making life harder for him. And then Kelley piped up that Morgan is making Vince's life harder outside the house. An obvious dig about Kelsey and the cheat mans. Speaking of what I said in my last video of bullying versus being disliked, Kelley came into the HOH room when Keanu, Vince, and Morgan were in there, and each of them gradually and none too subtly walked out, leaving her in the HOH room alone. This is what happens when you deliberately poke and prod and provoke, which she said she's been doing all season long, and we've seen it. All right, before I wrap this up, I want to update you on the will she, won't she, will he, won't he, of whether Morgan will play her golden power of veto and whether Vince will renom Ashley or Lauren if she does play it. Last night was a whole lot of Morgan pressing Vince to put up Lauren as renom, and it started again on Sunday, and he kept listing all the game reasons it's a bad idea. But for Morgan, this is personal, so those reasons don't matter. And let's be real, renomming her is good for Morgan's game and for her ego, but it's bad for Vince's game. And it's his HOH. But Morgan didn't stop. She said, if you don't put her up, that's the answer I need. So Vince wasn't moved by the threat, and Cam talked about that after she left the room. He's not going to do it. Morgan told Keanu Vince is absolutely not going to renom Lauren, and Keanu was actually surprised. Another big ASS wrong read by my favorite big ASS in the house. Just bless Keanu's heart. He rarely has a clue. Also, on the will she or won't she about the veto, Morgan made it clear to several people if she played it, she wouldn't use the veto on Keanu. And of course, we know she's not going to use it on Kelley. So Keanu took what Morgan said as fact. So yes, apparently he can be taught. And then he went up to Vince and he decided to pitch a Lauren renom from a different angle. So he believed that he won't do it, but then he decided to try it from another way. Keanu told Vince that getting Lauren out is a big move, the thing that Rachel was coaching Keanu that you have to do to win Big Brother. And he told Vince that getting Lauren on the block and voted out is something that Vinny could put on his resume and as part of his final 2 speech. And Keanu said if Vince did this, it would get Rachel's vote from the jury. But Vince was nodding along, still not buying what Keanu is selling. So Morgan told Ashley that since Vince won't budge on renomming Lauren, she might as well not play the veto. Keanu, meanwhile, wants to lock in final 2 with Morgan. He thinks they can comp their way to the end, and he's back to being Delulu, that Lauren might actually be the renom. That was his takeaway from Vince giving him the time of day. And speaking of the Louisiana low talker, she was working on Vince to renom Ashley if the veto is used, but Vince knows that would be a deal breaker with Morgan, and he is still trying to walk that tightrope between his wife and mistress at this point. In the wake of Vince's refusal to renom Lauren when they talked on Saturday night, Morgan had an epiphany. She told Vince she thinks he's letting Morgan and Lauren target each other, and whoever wins that is who Vince moves forward with by default. And he's actually loyal to neither. That is a solid read. And Morgan went back to pressing Vince on renomming Lauren. And he said he'd consider it as long as Morgan promised that Kelley would be evicted and not Lauren. And Morgan guaranteed it. But bottom line, Vince ain't going to risk it. I'd be stunned if he did it. And Morgan at this point would be an idiot to play that veto. So then Vince was begging Morgan to stop talking game and just have dinner and have some of his HOH booze. So Vinny the Lip had a few beers, and he seems to have the alcohol tolerance of a 100-pound college freshman girl, because then he basically made a love declaration, and he told Morgan this: "I want you in my life forever. I value you in this house before anybody else. So yes, I value you over Lauren. Am I going to be best friends with a 23-year-old that lives in Louisiana? No. How else are we going to talk after this? A funny Instagram video here and there? You're someone that I'm probably going to call at midnight emotional if I'm ever having a hard time, and I'm going to probably drive to your house. So yes, I choose you every single time in every single way." This is some Jerry Maguire, you complete me BS out of his mouth. Vince is trying to make himself the guy that stands outside Morgan's window holding up them boombox playing their song. It ain't happening. Vince is going to slide out of BB27, head back to Kelsey, turn on the tears, and beg her to stick with him. It'll probably work. He could sell a, life preserver to someone on Mars. My theory is Vince can't operate in life without some woman to pet him, dry his tears, and change his diapers. Since Kelsey's not there to do it, he glommed onto Morgan with Lauren as his backup NOLA nanny. Come back soon for more updates on the BB27 live feeds, insanity, and the game talk, as we are just 2 weeks from the end of the season.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.